Before we even start this video, can we just acknowledge how thin Kate looks? And this is not a compliment. This is not good. She looks absolutely stick thin. Get to the point, Martin. I was actually quite excited yesterday when the media announced that Kate and Charles were going to come together to work and celebrate the 125th anniversary of cancer research. I thought, what a brilliant opportunity to dispel the rumours in the new book about Kate. And if you don't know, there's a new book out about Kate and her whole life. And that book confirms, in the author's opinion, the story about precancerous cells. And Kate didn't even know they were there until the operation was over and the surgeon called her. Don't digress, Martin. Instead of being a celebration of meeting patients in real-life hospital situations and giving them hope and support, it was another Hunger Games style red carpet event. And I know charities need the cash. Cancer research, by the way, is one of the richest charities on the planet, but that's a whole other video. I know charities need awareness and they need the cash, but it was another red carpet celebration where the real survivors of cancer didn't seem to be around. Full of celebrities, full of PR, carefully crafted messages to dispel the rumours in the book about Kate. That's why they've rolled her out, because there's a book out and the palace don't like the theme of the book.
We can talk about this, right? This outfit? Because I know I'm not the only one with thoughts. I've had the same thoughts for years about Kate's wardrobe, and I feel like there are going to be comments, how dare you? How dare you say this? She had cancer treatment. No, this is a problem that has predated the cancer treatment in the Princess of Wales wardrobe. What I'm talking about is not even the 80s cosplay, the Diana homage, the sweet nods. It's the fact that ready to wear does not mean just put this on and you're good to go. It's the fact that wearing and styling are two different things, and unfortunately, I do not think that Kate has mastered that. When she wears these retro-inspired dresses, I think is when it comes through the most clearly. So let's talk about it. On Tuesday, Catherine, Princess of Wales, attended a reception in honor of the 125th anniversary of Cancer Research UK. Both she and King Charles were in attendance at the reception at St. James's Palace in London. And Catherine wore this retro-inspired red dress by the LA-based brand Rodarte. Rodarte? I'm thinking it's Rodarte, but I wouldn't know. I am not building my wardrobe based on brands that Meghan Markle has worn. So Kate loves these outfits, these dresses specifically, from multiple different brands that give homage, throwback to the 80s. But my issue with how she wears these dresses is that there is no real sense of self injected into the outfits that she creates with them. People will sometimes say that they feel like Kate wears costumes. And I do believe she has different personas that she steps into in her royal role, which is a skill. That in itself is an achievement, and I think a great thing to have in your toolbox as the Princess of Wales. But you don't want the looks to come off feeling costumey. A lot of people, though, are able to articulate that. What I do think we need to articulate more clearly is that the problem here is wearing a dress like this and not styling it. Those are two different things, actually two different skill sets. Being able to source and purchase dresses of this caliber from these trending brands, make them speak to the overall persona that you are trying to embody, that is a skill. But styling them so that they are fashion forward and successful as a cohesive look is another skill. And one that I don't think Catherine has mastered, especially as she is, we are told, styling herself now that her stylist Natasha Archer has quit palace life. It's one thing to recognize that 80s throwback is trending or useful to you as the Princess of Wales. It is another thing to style it well. Here is an example of how Rodarte styles this type of dress. As with most fashion houses that are putting these designs out, sure, they're trending. That doesn't mean that they are good looks when Kate puts them together. Because often I think these designers intend these dresses to be worn subversively. And she is using them to communicate the traditional values of her role, the influence that other women in the monarchy's past are clearly having on her now. But being trapped in that initial reference point is doing Kate, the modern woman, no favors, and doing these designers no favors. Good styling is about interpretation. It's about taking a piece, a designer's work, and filtering it through your own perspective. And when Kate's perspective comes into play, we often just get the most derivative, uninspired styling of genuinely interesting garments. There's a bit of, I think, telling on ourselves here that both of her recent 80s throwback looks have had this floral thing. That is not something she styled for herself. That came with the dress. Is that a tell of how little confidence Kate actually has in styling looks for herself? That we are now showcasing designs that have the styling sort of prefab, pre-built. She does move product, but she doesn't necessarily build legacy for brands in the same way that other royal women, not even just Meghan, other royal women in Europe have been able to.
You ever notice how every time the royal machine starts getting uncomfortable questions, somebody suddenly appears in front of a camera looking concerned, compassionate, and perfectly positioned for tomorrow's front page? That's what this felt like. Martin Gould looked at this whole cancer-related appearance and basically said, come on now, who are we kidding? And honestly, a lot of regular people are asking the same thing. Not because they don't care about cancer, quite the opposite. People care deeply about it. That's exactly why they get annoyed when a serious issue starts looking like a movie set. The timing is what had people raising eyebrows so high they nearly left their foreheads. A book comes out, questions start floating around, conversations get louder, then suddenly there's a highly publicized appearance ready for the cameras. If this were a football match, fans would be screaming that the referee missed an obvious handball. And can we talk about the setup for a second? Because when ordinary people hear cancer engagement, they expect to hear from survivors, patients, families, the people who've sat in hospital waiting rooms eating stale vending machine snacks while praying for good news. Those are the voices people want front and center. Instead, what many critics saw was another polished royal production. The red carpets show up, the cameras show up, the carefully selected photographs show up. Everybody shows up except the messy reality that real people actually connect with. That's the frustration. Regular people are exhausted from being sold perfection. Nobody's life is that tidy. Nobody wakes up looking like they stepped out of a palace brochure. Most people are trying to survive rising bills, impossible rent, and an economy that treats their bank account like a punching bag. So when they see another glossy royal appearance wrapped in emotional messaging, some of them don't see authenticity, they see marketing. And that's the problem. Trust isn't built through carefully managed photo opportunities. Trust happens when people feel like they're seeing the real thing. No filters, no script, no invisible team of image managers working overtime behind the curtain. The funny part is that the palace keeps acting shocked whenever people become skeptical. Really? You've spent years turning every appearance into a production worthy of an awards ceremony, and now you're surprised people think they're watching a performance? That's like a magician getting upset because the audience suspects there's a trick involved. At the end of the day, most people aren't asking for perfection. They're asking for honesty. They're asking for something that feels human instead of manufactured. You know, it's funny, Martin actually went into this thing giving them the benefit of the doubt. I know, shocking. For one brief moment, he thought maybe this event would be about actual people. Crazy idea, right? Maybe we'd hear from cancer survivors. Maybe we'd meet families who spent months living on coffee, stress, and hope. Maybe researchers would get their flowers for once instead of being treated like background extras in somebody else's photo shoot. Maybe, just maybe, the spotlight would land on the people carrying the scars, the stories, and the struggles. Instead, out came the royal production package. The cameras were ready, the angles were ready, the headlines were practically written before anyone even arrived. And suddenly, what was supposed to be about cancer started feeling like it was about image management. That's where people get irritated, because regular folks can spot the difference. You don't need a media degree, you don't need palace insiders, you don't need a team of experts sitting around a conference table drinking expensive tea. You just need common sense. When somebody tells you an event is about cancer patients, but the biggest conversation afterward is about royal appearances, photo opportunities, and publicity, something has gone sideways. The math isn't mathing. And that's exactly what Martin was reacting to. The people who should have been the main attractions somehow ended up feeling like supporting characters in their own story. Think about that. Imagine organizing a birthday party for your friend and then spending the entire night talking about yourself. That's the vibe. People battling cancer don't need another royal fashion parade. They don't need another carefully managed public moment wrapped up in a neat little bow for tomorrow's newspapers. They need attention on their reality, their treatment, their struggles, their victories, their voices. But somehow, those voices always seem to get pushed to the back while the royal machine rolls to the front like a luxury SUV looking for the best camera angle. And that's what frustrates people, because every time there is a chance for something real, something unscripted, something that actually feels human, it somehow gets polished, packaged, and transformed into a public relations exercise. It's like watching a football match where the groundskeepers keep running onto the pitch every 5 minutes to rearrange the grass. At some point, you're no longer watching the game, you're watching the maintenance crew. And that's the issue. People wanted authenticity. What they got felt like advertising. People wanted to hear from survivors. What they got felt like branding. People wanted a cause. What they got looked suspiciously like a campaign. No wonder Martin came away disappointed, because when the cameras become more important than the people, the whole thing starts feeling less like charity and more like a commercial break wearing a crown. Now hold on, because Meghan Effect might have touched a nerve with this one, and judging by the reactions online, a lot of people were already thinking it. See, this isn't really about one red dress. It's bigger than that. It's about style versus wearing clothes. Those are not the same thing. Anybody with a credit card can buy an expensive outfit. That doesn't automatically create a look. It doesn't automatically create personality, and it definitely doesn't automatically create fashion moments. That's where people keep drawing the distinction. When some people look at Kate's wardrobe, they see expensive pieces, they see tailoring, they see designer labels, but they don't always see her. They see the outfit before they see the person, and that's the problem critics keep pointing out. Because fashion isn't supposed to wear you, you're supposed to wear fashion. Some of these looks feel like they came straight from a royal handbook called How to Dress Like a Future Queen in 1987. Every time one of those retro dresses appears, you can almost hear a cassette tape rewinding in the background. The shoulders, the silhouettes, the formula. We've seen it again, and then we've seen it 12 more times. At some point, people stop talking about the woman and start talking about the template. Now compare that to Meghan. Love her or hate her, when Meghan walks into a room, people know exactly what they're looking at. There's a point of view, there's confidence, there's personality. The clothes feel connected to the person wearing them. That's why the so-called Meghan Effect became a thing. People weren't rushing to copy her because of a title. They were responding to a style that felt modern, relaxed, and recognizably hers. It felt personal. That's what catches attention, not because every outfit is perfect, nobody's is, but because there's an identity behind it. Meanwhile, some critics argue Kate's wardrobe can feel like it was assembled by a committee whose only goal is to avoid making headlines. The funny part, that strategy ends up creating headlines anyway, because people start asking the obvious question: who is this look actually for? Fashion should tell you something about the person. It should have fingerprints on it. It should feel lived in. It should feel like somebody made choices instead of simply following instructions. And that's why this conversation keeps coming back. Not because people are obsessed with dresses, because clothes communicate. They tell stories. And in the opinion of many critics, Meghan's wardrobe tells a story. Kate's wardrobe often feels like it's still waiting for one. That's why the debate never goes away. One style feels like self-expression. The other, according to critics, can sometimes feel like a royal uniform with a designer price tag attached. Brits are finally seeing through the gloss. That's the real story here. For years, the palace formula was simple. Roll out a polished photo, release a carefully crafted statement, schedule a perfectly timed appearance, watch tomorrow's headlines do the rest. Job done. Except it's not working like it used to. People aren't sitting there nodding along anymore. They're squinting, they're asking questions, they're looking behind the curtain. And honestly, can you blame them? When every picture looks like it spent 3 weeks in a laboratory, when every appearance lands with the timing of a Swiss watch, when every public moment feels like it was approved by 17 advisors, 4 image consultants, and a focus group named Nigel, people start wondering what's going on. That's just human nature. The palace seems obsessed with making everything look flawless. But here's the problem. Real life isn't flawless. Nobody's life is. Your neighbor isn't flawless. Your coworkers aren't flawless. The bloke arguing with a self-checkout machine because it won't scan his bananas definitely isn't flawless. So when the royal machine keeps serving up these spotless, carefully packaged moments, people don't automatically think, wow, how impressive. A lot of them think, all right then, what aren't we being shown? And that's where the trouble starts. The palace keeps trying to control every camera angle, every headline, every narrative, but the harder they squeeze, the more obvious the squeezing becomes. It's like somebody insisting they're completely relaxed while gripping the armrest so hard their knuckles turn white. Everybody can see it. The effort becomes the story, the management becomes the story, the spin becomes the story, and suddenly nobody's talking about the actual event anymore. They're talking about the production. That's why so many people are rolling their eyes. And that's it for today's Royal Roller Coaster, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate every single one of you for spending your time with me today. I'm your host, Miles, and honestly, where would I be without this amazing community? Probably arguing with my laptop and yelling at headlines by myself. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button like it owes you money, and share this video with your friends, your family, your neighbor, your coworker, and that one person who's always lurking in the comments but never says anything. I love you all, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.